One of the things you've been talking about on your show is your allegation that government officials are aiding in child trafficking and the grooming of children, right?
Well, you mean like what Jeffrey Epstein did with the Clintons?
So Alex, Agent Provocateur Jones, he's in the news lately. That's right, Alex, they're turning the frogs gay Jones. I gotta poke fun at Alex. As I've said in the past, I've kept track of Alex over the years. It's been about 2 decades now. Just over 2 decades, right? And yeah, kind of used to work for him as a coffee roaster and all that, but it's just fascinating to me, like, to watch this thing unfold, this show trial of Alex Jones. They're sure painting him like the most evil man in history, aren't they? Most wicked, evil man in history. Peddler of lies. How much have your lies cost you now, Alex Jones? Was the headline for one news clip. And yeah, it's just this. I think he fell for the trap, right? This whole Sandy Hook thing. You know, his defense brought up how the Hillary Clinton made it a campaign talking point.
It's also what happens when you listen to the radio host, Alex Jones. He even said the victims of the Sandy Hook massacre were child actors, and no one was actually killed there. I don't know what happens in somebody's mind or how dark their heart must be to say things like that.
Linking Alex Jones and these other conspiracy MAGA and all this to the Sandy Hook conspiracy with the unmentionable details that probably give me another striked video if I even talk about any of the details of that event. But this is why Alex Jones, InfoWars, any other shows like his, this is why, even the worst examples of messaging, worst examples of mankind, right, should be allowed the freedom to speak wherever they want to speak, The whole free market concept, right? Like, let the markets sort themselves out. If this guy's a really obnoxious troll who does nothing but lie to his audience on a daily basis, then eventually people will probably catch on, right? And they'll realize that they've been lied to, kind of like what happened with the mainstream media, right? Over years and years and years of being lied to, everybody started to tune out. You corporate puppets with your BS, spoon-fed by the spook agencies, Mockingbird media, just pure propaganda, lies on the TV. But yeah, guess I'm that famous. People honking at me these days. They recognize me, I think. It must be the hat. Yeah, I mean, are we that afraid of freedom, guys, in this country these days, that we can't just let, the riffraff sort themselves out from the true respectable, like Lester Holtz of the big money production, so-called free press? I mean, if they're so respectable, if they're so trustworthy, why are they so afraid of alternative websites like InfoWars? And why do they have to deplatform these people in mass, right? We discuss topics like the Rona and the medical procedures that followed. It's gonna be tight. It's gonna be tight. Woo. 2 trucks on a narrow road, never a good idea. Big trucks. If the truth will stand on its own, right? That's the way I see it. And the truth will always come out eventually. And so if you're so afraid of free thinking individuals in this country, right, that you have to indoctrinate them into the concept on a daily basis that information, disinformation, misinformation are, the most dangerous threat that we face as a nation this day and age. I want to reevaluate your whole concept of even a democracy at this point, even though that's not what we have as a republic, where the God-granted freedoms of the individual are protected, not the will of the mob, right, as is the case in a democracy. But I don't know, I guess I'm rambling a little bit. This whole thing just got me going. I'm kind of working on a little bit of a podcast about Jones and the little saga that's unfolding there, since it's been in the headlines. Even on our local news, they're covering Alex Jones. I thought that was kind of a trip. So they're really making, as I've been saying, and I second this concept in the podcast. I'm still trying to edit because things take forever, but they've really turned, the tip of the spear, as he used to call himself. I think he still does. In the info war, they've really turned Alex Jones into the poster boy on this war against free speech on the internet, right? And it's unfortunate. And this is one of the reasons why you have to be careful who you trust. You never make anyone into a front man or a figurehead or you never look to one man for your source of information ever. That's just dangerous. I definitely advise my audience, go and think for yourselves. Go find other sources. When I quote the Bible and I interpret it, go read it for yourself, right? The Bible should interpret itself. And it should be simple. It doesn't have to be some complex, like mathematical equation that you have to apply to the scriptures in order to arrive at some kind of deeper Gnostic type of truth, right? It's plain thus saith the Lord is all you really need to understand truth if you're a Christian, right? But yeah, this is just a great example of why you want to be careful who you trust. And Jones, he kind of changed over time, didn't he? I know that his lawyers, they already the jury settled for $4.1 million, and now they're going on to the next phase today, I guess, and it's like it's still up in the air, how much they're going to ask out of Jones. They're trying to make a big deal about how much his net worth is, how much he makes. And I haven't been really watching until the last minute because I didn't really think it was that big of a deal, but now it's just kind of interesting to see how it unfolds now that we have the national media covering it, right? I think they've given this more attention than they did the Johnny Depp trial, which is kind of fascinating, right? There's always an agenda behind the news coverage of the mainline dinosaur dying, so-called free press, corporate paid for, corporate sponsored, quote-unquote, news media. So yeah, they've been heaping a lot of attention on this case and trying to make an example, trying to create this chilling effect for other potential threats to their monopoly on the news, right? Any kind of alternative news sources, what they like to term conspiracy theorists out there, they're definitely under attack right now. And Jones just kind of fits the bill, and it's just become like one of the big top dominoes to fall. And we'll see where it heads. I mean, it's just more of the same, right? Where freedom is dangerous, and the criminals in power, you know, at the top of the dung pile there in the center of the swamp in DC, they have to convince you that your freedom is more dangerous than they are, right? It's your life and livelihood. Yeah, no, I don't think we have to be too afraid of words. We have to be afraid of a tyrannical government that's in our face each and every day. And we should have learned, you'd think, from the last couple of years, getting in every aspect of our lives, getting in our faces, literally, trying to cover our faces, getting in our small business. I think the biggest threat is government itself, right? To our well-being, our overall general welfare. And, you know, thought leaders like founding father Jefferson said, anytime a government is destructive of the aims of protecting our liberties, guess what? It's time to go bye-bye, government. It's time to be abolished. Now, of course, that's going to be seen and that's going to be painted as insurrection, as a coup. And the media will do everything it can to turn a majority of the population against said individuals who may want to even just talk about such dangerous concepts, and gather together in large groups and form channels and meetups and Twitter followers. Very dangerous individuals, right? Yeah, well, so were the founding fathers to the British Empire. And so I think it's just fascinating that, you know, Alex Jones with his free speech systems, I think it's called, corporation, is now not so much leading the charge, you know, to stick it to the globalists. He's actually kind of being used as a pawn to stick it, you know, stick that spear in even deeper into all of our backs. And do even that much more destruction to our constitutional rights, you know, as the constitutionalist libertarian that Jones is. Now, I'm not saying that Jones is 100% responsible for what's happening. Like I said, I think he fell for the Sandy Hook psyop, hook, line, and sinker, right? I mean, they baited him over and over again, right? Megyn Kelly got him on her show, like that little CIA freaking honeypot operation that she is, you know, with her charming good looks and blonde hair, right? Got him on her show and made the whole show about Sandy Hook and how evil and how mean and cruel and dangerous it is to try to deny these parents children's lives. And the tragedy actually happened the way the corporate fake news media described it. You know, and the plaintiff's lawyers have made it plain, made it clear that they want to destroy Jones's existence for profiting off of lies. Well, if that's the case, you know, you're going to have to shut down every news network all across the board on the television networks, radio. So that's all they do is peddle lies and profit off of it, right? How many wars, how many pandemics have they profited? Brought to you by Pfizer, right? While peddling nothing but pure official narrative lies. So it's just another precedent, right? And there have been several cases. I've been kind of researching some of this on the precedents, the laws that have been set in the books, the different court cases for defamation, libel. And, you know, it just happens over time, and they just keep, upping the bar. And that's one of the things they started out with in this case, right from the beginning. And they just brought it up again at the very end, some of these closing arguments, that, you know, free speech has no place in this courtroom, Mr. Jones and your attorneys, because they try to make it, you know, just a private citizen, which is different from a public persona, right? And the First Amendment doesn't apply in a defamation case against a private citizen. Not even the argument, like his lawyer tried to bring up about, you know, how this sets a precedent, which has been argued in the past, in past cases, how it literally creates a chilling effect on the press, which, you know, some of these news sites, call them what you will, but they are more so than the controlled narrative, corporate, you know, spook agency peddling garbage propaganda, you know, news media. Some of these alternative news sites are actually doing what the press, the free press, is supposed to do, right? Inform people in a non-controlled, you know, I would say non-biased, but the bias is clear. It's either a left or a right, usually, for the most part, news source. But non-controlled, that's the key, right? You don't have your corporate overlords when you're on one of these platforms, other than the platform itself, and they've sure done a good job since the whole Rona swindle of clamping down on free speech on all the major platforms, right? And so we've seen this kind of exodus, people leaving more and more for alternative platforms. Free, independent press, right? News journalism, investigative news journalism. Something that is dying in this country, and it has been for a long time. That is the enemy of the tyrant. You know, the only ones that fear the free spread of information are the ones who that information threatens, right? Threatens to expose their lies. And so that's those are the battle lines in this info war, right, for our minds. And in a lot of ways, you could say Jones was ahead of his time. Like I said, I don't agree with the course that he's taken, and I don't agree necessarily even with his messaging, his presentation, you know, his methods. I don't think they're really that effective, but it makes for good entertainment, right? He's a pretty entertaining host, and I guess, like his lawyer brought up, he makes, what was it, $14,000 an hour. Yeah, that must be nice, right? And that kind of money and clout and influence will get to your head. And maybe that's why he kind of, in my opinion, compromised over the last few years in this attempt to be more accepted, I guess. And probably there's, you know, a lot of financial interest involved, and who knows what kind of business connections and whatnot. But yeah, he pretty much made himself in the last few years, you know, going from anti-establishment, calling out the left-right paradigm, kind of edgy conspiracy host, to, you know, basically the aspiring next Rush Limbaugh or something like that, right? Because, yeah, almost overnight, he went from, you know, it's all rigged, both parties are corrupt, to just, you know, like, it's nothing but the Democrats and the left that are cause of all evil in the world. And I mean, yes, they are pretty bad, right? and they're losing all ground, as like I've said in the past. I mean, they're digging their own graves at this point, right? You're like beating a dead horse, as I see it. Now, if you truly value freedom and our Constitution, you have to look to your own close allies, right? Like, who betrayed Jesus, right? One of his own. Who will betray the church in the end? The son of perdition is only used twice in the scriptures. Once to describe Judas. The second, I think it's in Thessalonians, to describe the Antichrist or a man of sin. Your own worst enemy is always from within your own gates, from within your own borders. You know, the founding fathers knew that the only way this nation would be conquered was from within. You know, we're too land rich, and we have a armed citizenry, right? Good luck trying to invade, right, from one of the coasts, this massive land mass of a continent. But getting back to my point, yeah, your worst enemy is always from within. And so, start to look to your own party, and don't, you know, when you see corruption, when you see hypocrisy, when you see, even if it sounds good, right, under the name of defeating the bad guys, right, like getting rid of the woke, whatever, right, like Ron DeSantis, make sure that you hold them to the same standards that you hold your enemies to, your obvious enemies to, when it comes to defending our Constitution, protecting our rights here at home. That's all I'm saying. Because, you know, the left-right, two wings of the bird of fascism, the two fangs on that rising dragon power, the lamb-like beast that speaks as a dragon, legislates as a dragon. You know, it cuts both ways. And so we got to be careful, right? Just like in the Jones case, people on the left especially just hate the guy, and they are so ready to just shred, you know, any semblance of free speech on the internet, just as long as they can shut up big mouth blowhards like Alex Jones. Well, you know what? There's a lot on the right who probably wouldn't be too far away from the same opinion, who would argue for some of the same kind of censorship to some of those that they hate on the left. So you got to be careful with it whenever emotions and heated, you know, debate is involved, especially with this left-right political system. You got to be careful not to be a hypocrite, right? Now, free speech needs to be tolerated on both sides. And like I said, let the free market sort itself out. I think it's doing that right now with a lot on the left. And some of these clownish thought leaders on the left are just making themselves look like what I guess they are, a bunch of fools. You know, when you're a PhD and you can't even define what a woman is, when all it takes is to look into like a ninth grade biology textbook to discover that profound truth, right? The differences in sexes, you know, a childbearing person, however they want to play with words, right? Because you can't offend anybody, God forbid, right? I don't think most people, personally, most people, not the extreme on the left, but most people, I don't think they really want to live in that world, do they? I don't think they want to live in that mental prison. So freedom is popular. Like my friend and co-patriot Ron Paul used to say, but in the name of freedom, we cannot deny the rights and the freedoms of others, okay? That's the risk. And the risk is from both sides, okay? I don't want people force-feeding me morality and religion from a political office either, okay? That's God's role. That's the high priest in heaven. You know, we have one high priest. You know, we don't make a politician into our high priest, okay? We don't elect a pastor into politics. Now, you can elect a pastor, but he doesn't act like a pastor when he's in a political office. That's not the American system as it was envisioned, okay? Now, he can lead with the morality that's in his heart, that's in his mind, that's in his character. But you don't have to push that morality through legislative powers, okay? That's what we escaped in old Europe.
This is not America. Sha-la-la-la-la. Little piece of you, a little piece in